You know that feeling when you look at the world, or even just your own life, and it just feels chaotic? One day you're on top of the world, the next you're at the bottom. Plans completely fall apart, relationships change out of nowhere, it all seems so random and unpredictable. But what if it's not? What if underneath all that noise, there's a hidden perfect order? All right, let's really get into this.
I mean, does any of this ring a bell? The huge success you had yesterday is suddenly today's big failure. People you thought were your closest friends become your worst enemies. You see wealthy people lose everything and end up starving, or a powerful official gets thrown in jail. It's this constant whiplash, right? This feeling that we're just being tossed around by unpredictable forces, like we're all just passengers on a runaway train. So this brings us to our first big idea, this really common, very human feeling that we live in a world defined by chaos. And it's all built on this sense that nothing really lasts, that fortune, fame, even our most important relationships are just fundamentally unstable.
This idea of everything being temporary is captured so powerfully in this image of foxes sleeping on broken steps. Just take a second to picture that. Places that were once bursting with life, with music, with celebration, they're now just silent ruins. It's such a stark reminder of how quickly all that glory can just fade away. And it hammers home that feeling that nothing is really permanent.
And when you're living in what feels like a chaotic world, you're forced to ask some really tough questions, aren't you? Like, should I just go with the flow? Or should I fight like crazy against the current? Do I listen to what everyone else tells me is right, or do I trust my own gut feeling? Is it better to plan for the long haul, or just deal with the fire that's burning right in front of me? It can honestly feel like we're standing at a crossroads all the time, with no map.
Okay, but now we're going to make a huge shift, a really radical one. We're going to challenge that entire idea of chaos by looking at things from a completely different angle, the possibility of a hidden order.
And this is where things get really interesting. What if that feeling of being lost, that sense of randomness that drives us crazy, what if that isn't the real story of the universe? What if it's just a huge misunderstanding of how things actually work? Yeah, what if the chaos we see is just an illusion?
This leads us to a really bold, almost jarring statement. In my eyes, everything is in perfect order. Now think about that for a second. After everything we just talked about, the chaos, the confusion, the unpredictability, this perspective claims the exact opposite. It suggests that every single thing, from the rise and fall of nations to the smallest thing that happens in your day, is all unfolding in a perfect, logical sequence.
So how is that even possible, right? Well, the mechanism behind it is described as the net of heaven, and you can think of it like a universal law of cause and effect. The idea is that this net is so huge, its openings are so wide, that you think tons of things could just slip through unnoticed, but they don't. It misses nothing. It's almost like an ancient version of the butterfly effect, where every single cause has an effect right down to the tiniest detail.
And the implication here is, well, it's huge. It means there are no small, insignificant actions. In this worldview, every thought you have, every word you say, every little thing you do sends a ripple out into this orderly system. Nothing goes to waste. Everything matters and contributes to the reality that's unfolding around you.
Okay, so if everything is woven into this cosmic net of cause and effect, how do we fit in? How do we interact with it? Well, that brings us to our next key idea. The heart is the key. The claim is that the reality we experience on the outside is a direct mirror of our world on the inside. To put it simply, the world we experience is just a reflection of our collective inner state. If our hearts are barren and cold, then the world we get back is barren and cold. If our hearts are full of kindness, then the world we get back reflects that. It's a system that's constantly, perfectly responding to us. Let me tell you a quick story that makes this super clear. There's this rich man, and he wants to use his wealth to do some good, to help a community. So he goes looking. First, he visits a village where everyone is just cold and distant, so he leaves. Then he finds another village where people are all cunning and trying to trick each other, and he leaves there too. But then he finds a village of simple, genuinely kind-hearted people, and that's it. That's where he decides to invest his money and build his business, and they all become prosperous. The opportunity itself was drawn to the quality of their hearts.
So you see, the world itself didn't change. The lens he was looking through did. A barren heart, one that's full of suspicion and calculation, it sees a world that matches. And in return, it gets a world of distrust and chaos. But a pure heart, one that sees kindness and simplicity, it sees opportunity everywhere, and it receives a world of beauty and support. The external reality literally just matches the internal state.
Now, look, this is a very blunt way to put it, I know, but you're not going to forget it. The idea here is that the universe is impartial. It isn't sitting up there judging us, it's just responding. It gives us exactly what our collective consciousness is asking for, whether that's something sweet, like honey, or, well, something else. What this really means is that the reality we all experience is the one we are all creating together, from the inside out.
All right, so if this is how the universe actually works, as this incredibly responsive, orderly system, the big question then becomes, how are we supposed to live in it? So this final section is all about a practical guide for navigating this unseen order.
So the whole game changes. The fundamental shift is to just stop struggling. Instead of trying to force things to happen or swim against a current you don't even understand, the goal is to align yourself with the natural flow of this order. But what does that actually look like day to day? Okay, so here's a simple 4-step framework for how to do this. First up, be at ease with what comes. This is basically about accepting what happens without fighting it, trusting that everything has its own timing. Next, you transform with conditions. This means you handle whatever and whoever comes into your life with your full attention so you can move on without any regrets. The third one is to act on your true nature. This is about listening to your deepest intuition, not just a cold calculation of pros and cons. And finally, you act only when the time is right. It's about being patient and not trying to force things to happen before the opportunity is really there.
And so, at the end of the day, it all comes back to this. If it's really true that the world is a mirror, that the chaos or the order we experience is a direct reflection of our own inner state, then the most important question isn't about the world out there. It's about the world in here. The question is, what does your heart see?